Hey, buddy, think about the most ambitious person at your workplace right now. The one who says yes to everything, volunteers for every project, and jumps at every promotion. They have a title, their salary sounds impressive over dinner, and they do everything they're told. Now, think about this. Is that person truly happy? Not the kind of happiness you see on LinkedIn or the kind where they write, "I'm grateful, thank you," under a work anniversary post. Are they truly, deeply happy? Because there's a version of that person, maybe you know them, or maybe that person is you, who gets home at 7:45 p.m., stands in front of the fridge eating something because even sitting down feels too exhausting, checks their emails one last time before bed, then lies down and stares at the ceiling, asking themselves, is this life I've worked so hard for really the life I wanted? A promotion came, a raise came, a title came. And as all of this came, something else quietly slipped away. This video is about that thing that was lost. And more importantly, it's about the people who saw that loss coming, politely turned down the promotion, and found themselves in a completely different place 5 years later. A better place, a more prosperous place, a place that's hard to put into words while having breakfast with your family, but one that makes perfect sense mathematically. Let's start with the most basic question. Your salary went from $80,000 to $110,000. So how much of that $30,000 raise actually ends up in your pocket? $30,000 sounds like a big number. It's something worth celebrating, something to be proud of. But what happens to that money when the real world quietly knocks on your door? With an $80,000 salary, the total federal income tax and FICA comes to about $14,890, leaving you with $65,110. On a $110,000 salary, this burden rises to $23,785, leaving you with $86,215. So, from that $30,000 raise, $8,895 goes directly to the government before you even see it. That's just federal tax. The state government won't forget you either. In California, this amounts to an additional $2,790. In New York, the marginal tax rate on amounts over $110,000 exceeds 41%. This $30,000 raise leaves you with a net take-home pay of $17,500. And we haven't even gotten to the truly painful part yet. There's a name for this painful phenomenon, my friend: lifestyle inflation. It's not because people are irresponsible, it's because this phenomenon operates almost like a biological mechanism, on autopilot. The average person spends 65 to 85 cents of every new dollar they earn. Our brains interpret increased income as permission to spend more. A slightly nicer apartment, a slightly newer car. Restaurants once reserved for special occasions have now become a routine activity on Tuesday nights. According to a Lending Club study, 40% of Americans with an annual income over $100,000 are living paycheck to paycheck. Goldman Sachs' 2025 study is even more striking. 40% of households with an annual income of $500,000 still describe themselves as living paycheck to paycheck. They earn $500,000 a year and still live paycheck to paycheck. Read this sentence again and ask yourself, is income really the variable here? Let's say the cost of living has risen by 60% after taxes. That $17,500 has now dropped to $7,000. Now factor in that the promotion requires commuting to the office, which means an additional $4,000 to $12,000 a year for transportation, lunches, and work clothes. Add to that healthcare costs, which are 50% higher for high-stress employees, according to studies. And suddenly, out of that $30,000 promotion raise, only $1,000 to $5,000 a year remains as actual investable savings. That's what's left after factoring in taxes, lifestyle expenses, and the physical toll of commuting. You've given more of your life. They gave you a title and a coffee budget. Let's do the math. This is called the effective hourly wage, and it's the most honest figure in your financial life. Let's take the example of a vice president earning $130,000 a year. That sounds great. Now let's consider the senior individual contributor who turned down that role and settled for $90,000. That doesn't seem too bad either. Now, divide both by the actual hours they work, because that's where the uncomfortable part begins. Research shows that 58% of top executives work 51 hours or more per week. Harvard Business School tracked 27 CEOs for a year, collecting 60,000 hours of data, and found an average of 62.5 hours per week, including nearly 4 hours on weekends and 2.4 hours on vacation. though that vacation isn't really a vacation anymore, it's just working while wearing a nicer shirt. Let's be realistic. The vice president works 55 hours a week. That amounts to $130,000 a year, or $2,500 a week. That works out to $45.45 an hour. On the other hand, an employee who works exactly 40 hours a week and earns $90,000 makes $43.27 per hour. The difference between them is $2.18 per hour. Dude, have you ever stopped to think about what that hourly raise actually amounts to when you do the math? $2.18. And now comes the part that's really going to piss you off. Under US labor law, if you're a salaried exempt employee, meaning any manager or executive earning over $43,888 annually, you lose your right to overtime pay. A vice president working 55 hours a week is giving away 780 hours of unpaid labor every year. That's equivalent to 19.5 full work weeks, and they're repaying the company with a smile and a LinkedIn update saying, "I love a challenge." The company didn't give you a raise. It's been taking a huge chunk out of your life for a long time. Being a salaried manager, from a financial standpoint, is like accepting an all-you-can-eat buffet deal where the restaurant could end up eating you too. It looks great, but the math is grim. So, are those extra hours making you more successful? No, my friend. They're just making you more exhausted, and for free. Now think about this. What could you actually build with the 15 to 20 hours you're sacrificing every week? Not a unicorn startup, not cryptocurrency, something boring and sustainable. Freelancing in your field, a small consulting firm, content creation, e-commerce. The average American with a side hustle earns between $885 and $1,215 a month. 35% of those who really put in the effort earn over $1,000 a month. Let's say you start something modest, $2,000 a month. You invest that in the S&P 500, which has a historical average return of 10%. In 10 years, you'll have $47,000. In 20 years, you'll have $1.375 million. That's the opportunity cost of working 20 hours a week. While the vice president is preparing slide presentations to be sent via email, you're building $1.375 million. Let's see how this plays out in a real person's life. At 7:52 p.m. on Tuesday, Blake accepted all his promotion offers. He's now a manager and earning $145,000. It sounds like a success, but it's 7:52 p.m. and Blake is still at the office because there's a restructuring process underway. A senior executive wants the presentation ready by Thursday. He has a one-on-one meeting with a struggling subordinate, and there are 47 unread Slack messages from today. He'll get home at 8:30 p.m. The kids will already be fast asleep. He'll eat whatever's in the fridge standing up, check his emails one more time, and set his alarm for 6:15 a.m. The $520,000 mortgage demands that he stay exactly where he is. The monthly payments on 2 cars total $1,600. That too demands that he stay exactly where he is. Private school tuition, because that's how it's done at this income level, requires him to stay exactly where he is. He has $87,000 in his 401k. This looks good until he realizes he'll need roughly $1.5 million to retire at age 38. After a life quietly shaped by the mortgage, cars, school, and his salary, there isn't much left for investing. He tells himself that his home's value is his retirement plan. This is equivalent to saying his investment portfolio consists of lottery tickets. That same Tuesday, Jordan was preparing dinner. He had turned down his last 2 promotions. His manager at the time looked at him as if he were giving up on success. His family asked if everything was okay. Everything was fine. Jordan, 38, earns $98,000, working entirely remotely, and cooks pasta at 6:15 p.m. like someone who sets their own schedule. He has $212,000 in his 401k because while Blake spent the money he earned from promotions and raises, Jordan had contributed the maximum amount for 7 years. He has $34,000 in a taxable brokerage account. 2 years ago, he started a small consulting firm that charges for the expertise his day job provided for free, and he's currently making $2,400 a month. He puts most of that into investments. He went to Japan last year. He reads books unrelated to management. He can't really pinpoint the specific things that stress him out. Blake, on the other hand, earns $47,000 more per year. His investable assets are $125,000 less. He works 18 more hours per week, none of which are paid, And as these numbers grow, with compound interest doing its usual work, rewarding those who start early and keep going, the gap between them will only widen further. Anyone who says yes to every promotion ends up wasting their time chasing after something that's always just out of reach. You, on the other hand, will spend those 10 years building something that truly belongs to you, something no restructuring can eliminate, no manager can reorganize, and no company can set aside on the grounds that it's incompatible with a new strategy. Go home at 5 p.m., invest a difference, and let compound growth do what your company never will: work on your behalf.